Welcome, everybody, to episode 10 of the Sobo.live podcast. You're hosted tonight by Wes Marriott, Eric Faulting, and our special guests, our State Representative for District 9, Ms. Dodie Horton. We appreciate everybody being here. Eric, how's your week going?
It's been good so far. It's only Monday, so we'll see. I'm excited to be back in the saddle in here. I had to miss last week, but for a good cause. So looks like y'all had a good interview, but I'm so excited today because Ms. Horton has become one of my favorite people and was a huge supporter of mine before I even really got to know her. And so I was so excited when she said she would come on our podcast with us so we could just ask her some questions and let people get to know her as we have gotten to know her, and let people see the other side of Dodie Horton other than just the politician. And it's going to be an exciting interview. I'm really looking forward to it.
Thanks for being here.
No, thank you so much. Thank you, Eric.
Welcome back. Before we get started, I just wanted to give a shout out to two of our sponsors who have made a lot of this possible for us. As you know, buying a house right now, it can be a pretty difficult time. Interest rates are high. House prices have been on the rise the last couple of years. So you really need a trusted advisor, and that's why we're very thankful for Louisiana Mortgage Professionals. They are the trusted local mortgage experts, and they help you find a house. So when you're ready to buy a house, start here local first with Louisiana Mortgage Professionals.
Your next home? Start here first. Whether it's your first home or your dream home, Louisiana Mortgage Professionals should be your first stop in the buying process. We make it easy to get pre-approved for your next home, and our helpful experts can answer all of your questions. Louisiana Mortgage Professionals guide you the whole way, from start to finish, with expert advice. Louisiana Mortgage Professionals, start here first.
Bowman's Grading and Asphalt. Over 150 years of experience. South Bossier's premier paving contractor. Clean and professional. When you need it done right. When you need it done on time. Serving Northwest Louisiana and East Texas. No one does it better. Commercial, residential, government. Bowman's handles it all. Bowman's Grading and Asphalt, supporting South Bossier.
All right, guys, we're back with Representative Dodie Horton from District 9. Thank you again for being here. We really appreciate it.
I'm honored to be here. Thank you for having me. Really excited.
So for those who may not know you, we want to introduce you to maybe our younger voters, those Gen Z and millennials like myself who get all their information from Facebook and TikTok and social media. Tell us a little bit about your background.
Well, I was born. How far you want me to go back?
As far as back as
Where'd you go to start at high school?
High school. Well, I was born and raised in Shreveport, and graduated from Woodlawn when it was the best school in the state back then, and so and it was a great experience. And then I met my husband Gary, and we married in 1976, and 1776. Seems to have been a long time. And he moved me to a place called Houghton that I had never heard of, and never been in the country. When we moved out there, I said, "Man, where's the street lights?" He said, "There's not any street lights out here." "Where's the sidewalks?" "There's no sidewalks." There was no subdivisions. It was maybe one red light. He went to Halton when it was, I think, first grade all the way through high school, but immediately just loved it, and I would never live anywhere else. We've been married 47 years, and it's just it's a wonderful place to live and to raise your kids and family, and now to represent them for the past 8 years in the legislature is truly an honor.
Now, what did you do? So you graduated from Woodlawn.
Mm-hmm.
What was after that?
Well, I went to Northeast
Okay.
for a little bit, and
For the younger people, that's what ULM is called now.
I'm sorry.
To us,
Yes,
to us,
yes.
it's Northeast. The Northeast Indians was the original
they were
name from them.
Yes, absolutely. But it just, it wasn't not anything that I really was interested in.
Right.
So I came back and I was learned to be an orthodontic assistant. And that's where I started a career, and I really liked orthodontics, and I did that for most of my working career, and then I took a short break when my children were kind of in elementary and going into high school. I drove a school bus. It's a great supplement to your income, and I could be with my children every day. I drove their softball teams. My daughter's, she was a high stepper, drove them to a lot of places, even that school bus to New Orleans. Down Bourbon Street.
Oh, wow.
That was an experience. and then after my youngest daughter graduated from high school, then I went back into orthodontics.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and so I really liked it. I retired with Ben Foster, the dad. I was like the patient coordinator and the liaison between the front office and the back, and it was just a great experience. And then, lo and behold, Henry Burns, a great friend of mine. We had coached Little League together and prayer partners for a long time. He ran to the legislature, and my husband had just retired from the fire department, and so he got drafted into being his campaign manager. And so Henry won by 87 votes, and he asked me to be his legislative assistant, and the rest is history, I suppose. So
Wow.
it was wonderful. He and I learned together.
Now, how long were you his legislative assistant?
The 8 years that he was a state representative until he ran for Senate. And so he allowed me to be as equally involved in the legislative process as he was. We both learned that together, and it was a great experience. And I took care of the constituent services. It was a ministry for Henry and I, and it's a ministry now, because when someone calls you, they've already exhausted every avenue to get help, and we're the liaison between our constituents and the state. Any state program, any state problem you're having, that's where we come in. Not parish, not
Right.
city, but state. And so being able to intervene on something that's very important to them and getting the answer in a really timely manner is so important, and that's where relationships come in. Working with staff for 8 years prior to being elected, it was just it was really a plus for our people. And so, our staff in the House is wonderful. They serve 105 legislators. And so when I call, I want my people to go to the top of the list.
Right.
And so I just learned so much, and every day it was something new. And all that, you just keep learning and learning, and it's about service.
Yeah, Mr. Burns, I got to know him, and he's a really, really good guy. And
Yes.
He was a great leader. And can you pinpoint a time, at what point in time when you started as his assistant until he ended his reign, around what time did you realize, hey, I want to do this as well? Or did you even think about it at all until the end?
Well, I was born in a home where we were very politically minded, very conscious of what was going on. My father was a Marine in the Korean conflict. I don't know if you heard about the Frozen Chosen. It was where very few made it out alive. And then, and my mother was in education, and always about service. And so they taught us the importance of being involved at a young age and respecting the flag. Whenever the national anthem came on, my father stood up and we all followed. He put our hand on his chest, we all followed. We've taught our girls the same way, and now they're teaching their children. And so we know that what a difference a vote makes. Mm-hmm. And now our kids are hearing, why vote? It doesn't matter. Louisiana doesn't have enough electorals, but yes, it does matter.
Yeah.
It matters that the school board electing people who are going to be for developing the curriculum according to the state policy for our children, and then it goes to, the municipalities, and our police jury is above the parish. They rule the parish, and so and then we have us with the state that are lawmakers, and so and we are here to serve, and whenever we're needed. But like with with municipality issues, our ethics do not allow us to get involved. You won't see me very often at a municipality or whenever they have a meeting or a council meeting, because I stay in my lane, because we can't interfere in that.
Right.
Now, anytime I have been invited to go or to attend, I will. If constituents need me there to observe, I will. But other than that, I stay in the lane that I was trained to through our ethics education. And so we're there to serve, and it's a benefit. But whenever I try to talk Henry out of running for the Senate, he is such a great guy and so beloved by people. I just didn't think it would be fun for him in the Senate, but he did. And when he did, I was encouraged by him and others that I should run. And I go, well, why would anybody vote for me? And they said, why not? You know the process. You have the relationship with not only legislators but staff, and you hit the ground running. I truly was job ready, and so I'm thankful that the people had faith in me. They supported me 65%, and went in unopposed my second term. So it's definitely, it's been an experience, but I really never contemplated it until Henry decided that he was not going to run. I really like serving the constituents. That is where you see the change in the lives of the people who God brings to you. And so, but I never really thought about stepping into that role. Never, until I was encouraged to do so.
Now, has there ever been a time that you thought, you know what, I really regret doing this? Or maybe in the beginning, did a snowball effect come or something that you say, God, I'm just not sure? Or at the end of your first term, did you have any second thoughts like, maybe I don't want to do this? Or maybe did you have any thoughts about that at all?
Well, whenever Henry was in office, he told me went really quickly, and he served under Bobby Jindal. He said, watch this man, the state representative named John Bell Edwards. Watch him. He is a very smart, articulate, and very politically savvy. So I just want you to watch him. And so I did. And so upon being elected in 2016, I knew it'd be difficult to go in under someone that has a different philosophy than my district. And but I knew that it was such a time as that God had appointed me to this position. And so when he had a transitional time, and he met with every legislator in the state, and so when it was my turn, to meet with him, we already knew each other, said hello, just not best friends, I just knew acquaintances. And so we sat down, and he said, Dodie, what committees would you were interested in serving on? And I said, well, sir, I serve at the will of the Speaker. The governor doesn't choose our Speaker. Even though we're a red state, the people chose and elected you to be a Democrat to be the governor, but they gave the Republicans the majority. Now, what a slap in the face would it be for me to hand that majority back over to you? That wouldn't be respecting the will of the people. And so we're going to elect an independent elect an independent Speaker. He said, that's never going to happen. He said, that's not going to happen, Dodie. It never happens. He said, I'm going to choose a Speaker, and you need to vote for this person. And I said, Governor Edwards, can I tell you a story? And he said, sure. And I said, for 8 years, I watched a legislator expound on the merits of our Constitution, why our forefathers wrote it to where each branch of office is independent from one another. Because we must remain independent for it to work the way it should, checks and balances. And so, do you know, I watched in this legislature continuously debated it and expounded on it in very articulate manner, and I get it. I know why it's important for us to remain independent from one another. And I said, do you know who that was? He said, no, I don't. I said, it was you, sir. It was you. And he sat back. I said, so what's changed? You criticized Bobby Jindal the whole time for for helping to choose the Speaker, and I agree with you. The members should choose the Speaker. So now that you're the governor, you can be the game changer. You can live by the words that you spoke prior to being elected. He said, well, tradition. I said, no. You even argued against tradition. It has no place in the Constitution. And so he kind of ripped up the paper where he was thinking about what committees I could be on. I said, sir, I said, you know, I appreciate you calling me. And I said, I would love for us to focus on what we both have in common, and we both support public education, and we're both pro-life. You know, I would love to focus on that for our relationship if we could. And he said, well, you'll never elect an independent speaker, and I'll see you down the road. I said, yes, sir. Well, for the first time in, I was told in 50 years, recorded history, we did elect an independent speaker. And the clapping and the roar of that building was phenomenal. I still get chill bumps thinking about it.
Wow.
So my first term, we had an independent Republican speaker. He's a very good man. He was a perfect choice. And then the battle began. When you're independent, it causes a governor to work extra hard.
Right.
You know, and you know, the first, and when you talk about did I think, what am I doing here? Well, I knew, I mean, whenever we had a special session, I knew that we had a deficit, and I knew how much money we have in that capital, in the departments, and so he wanted to raise a tax, an extra penny state sales tax. Well, I put it to my district, and they're adamantly against that, adamantly against raising taxes. And so I promised to be their voice when I win. I would vote for the people and who I represent. And so the pressure came when the governor called me into his office and told me I needed to vote for this. If you don't vote for this, we're going to cut any project. The locals are going to hate you. And I said, sir, I said, I have to stand with the people. He said, no, you got to do what's best for the state. I said, no. We're a representative government. I represent a district. We have our own philosophies and our ideals and our desires for a new Louisiana. I came here to bring that to you, not to take your desires back home.
Right.
And so at that, I was, you know, he called me in about 4 different times, you know, with different threats, and I had different people in there to put a little more pressure and a little more pressure. But I saw your faces. I see the families at home, and there was no way that I was going to bend. There was no way I was going to let the people down at the first trial that I came up against. And so there laid the foundation of probably 8 years of working under John Bell Edwards. We have a personal relationship. You know, I don't dislike him at all. He's a nice man. He just has a different philosophy than my district.
Sure.
And so was it difficult? Has it been difficult? Absolutely. But it's the right thing to do, and I don't regret anything. And it's been an honor to stand in the gap. I served on Ways and Means the first 4 years, and with unprecedented amount of special sessions. And we killed hundreds of bills that would have crushed your small business. Hundreds of bills we killed in labor that would have brought so much more on regulations and opened the door for so many frivolous lawsuits that we killed. We just, you know, so with the independent speaker who organizes and says who's going to be on what committee, he knew which committees had to have strong people on them, and I was blessed to serve on those committees. And so so getting elected under, and I was told by others, it's going to be tough. It's going to be tough going in under this governor. He's strong, you know, and he was always able to persuade enough Republicans to vote with him. And more than party, I just vote for the people. And we stand on lower taxes, less government, because I think before you go outside that Capitol to ask the hardworking people for more money, you've got to clean your house first. And the money that we have inside there is tremendous, and the waste is tremendous. And so it's been a learning experience every day, but I've never regretted standing in the gap for the people I serve.
Right. And that's good to know.
Yeah.
So it sounds like that was something that he being Governor Edwards, you know, he pulled that weapon or that tool out of his tool bag pretty quick, and then he used that
Very much so.
a lot.
That's how any governor, he's not the only one that uses that weapon, and we need to de-weaponize the governor by passing a constitutional amendment to take away his line item veto power.
I think that is probably the most egregious of the abuses that come from the governor's office from either side of the aisle.
It doesn't
matter. Anybody
matter.
can use it, and it takes away the intent of the legislation.
Right.
Can you tell us about line item veto for those that don't know about it?
Oh, absolutely. now?
Yeah, sure.
Oh, okay. I didn't know if you're recording now.
Yeah, I never stopped.
I'm sorry.
I'll just come back later on and cut that. Yeah.
Yes, Louisiana's governor is the most powerful governor in the nation. I don't know, y'all are too young to remember this, but Edwin Edwards, somebody had asked him about running for president. And he said, why would I want to be the president of the United States when I can be the governor of Louisiana? Because that's how powerful that governor is. And he became that powerful when they rewrote the Louisiana State Constitution in 1974, which Edwin Edwards was instrumental in writing. And so, and with the governor, and I'm not just talking about Governor Edwards, since then the governor has line item veto. And the way to twist the knife in the back of well-meaning legislators that they intend on going and standing on the core values of their people, is through capital outlay, what we call capital outlay projects, and so which those projects help our municipalities, our police juries, because the state collects the taxes. And the way Huey Long set it up is the state collects all the taxes that is created here, sales taxes, a lot of severance taxes. And Huey Long wanted everyone to come to him and beg for money to bring back home. And that's the way the system still works. And so whenever you have your projects, and I don't make up the projects, like the town of Halton would say what they needed, Bossier Parish would say, and I would write a letter of support. The legislator has to take that. Sure. The legislator has to work within their relationships to keep it in the bill until it gets to the governor's desk, and then he does what he does. And so, but whenever, we have a lot of issues that I know that y'all seen lately, but throughout the years, from raising taxes to constitutional carry to little boys that going in girls' bathrooms and CRT and things that he supported. And we killed, we were threatened about, again, started with me voting against taxes. And anytime you vote against his agenda, that's a strike against you with him. And so, and that is used to really, really cause a lot of legislators to compromise. And when I'm talking about compromise, I work across the aisle as much as possible. We do. I have Democrat friends who want to come up here now, and join me in what I'm doing. And so, whenever we get to something we cannot, like a core value, like again, taxes and growing government, or regulating industry, taxing the input and output of small businesses or industry, and pro-choice, pro-life, or even though he's pro-life, he is to a point,
right?
Not to the degree, but to a point, and I appreciate that greatly. But mandates, vaccine mandates, our personal liberties and medical liberties, and keeping our churches open, whenever COVID was coming on, a lot of these, and indoctrination, and these are core values that I would never compromise on, nor would my district expect me to.
Right.
Those, in standing against that agenda, that is what he uses against you to have others vote for something they never would before.
Right.
Okay? Just like we wanted to pass a bill to where our we wanted to solidify in law the new social studies standards that Bessie passed. And it's because of the outcry of the parents. They wanted to teach American exceptionalism, that every child, no matter what race or color, creed, has equal opportunity in this country. And that was the opposite of what he was pushing. And so to get people to vote a certain way, they're threatened with their projects that they know is important to their district. No one knows more how important these projects are than me. Mm-hmm. No one hurts when they get vetoed than me. But I don't feel responsible for that, because I speak for all the people. I speak for the vast majority who support those core values. And even in standing and being threatened all these years like I have been, and we still brought home $205+ million of finished road projects in District 9. I'm not talking about all of Bossier, but District 9, and over 84 plus million in capital outlay projects for Bossier Parish and some for the town of Houghton. And so, and what's wonderful just now, I've learned, well, today I got a call from Chairman Zarang, who's chairman of appropriations, but he's also vice chair of the water sector program. And the town of Houghton had applied for a water sector grant, which is badly needed. We're growing tremendously. The Houghton area grew 33% in the last census. 33%. It's a central part of Bossier. And I served on the redistricting committee, so I remember these percentages. In Bossier Parish, it's the only parish that grew north of I-10, and we grew 10.06%. And so in that comes a lot of needs. And with this water sector program, it had a score. It has a scoring base, and so the town had to fill this application out. It's very tedious, and it's like we never could get to the score we needed. But the whole time Senator Mills worked with the Senate, I worked with Chairman Zarang, as well as the town had their lobbyist, and the mayor worked as well, putting the pressure on. And so finally they got the grant for almost $2.7 million. So it's a big deal. It takes a team. No one, absolutely no one, can do anything in the legislature alone. No one. It has to be relationship. It has to be get a consensus together. When you go in committee, I know if I have those votes or not. And so, but again, the bills that I personally, God favored me to get through, should never have gotten through. It strictly was relationship, and that counts. It means a lot, But capital outlay is something that needs to change. The more conservatives you keep, the more chance we have of changing that. And we want to pass a constitutional amendment to take away that line item veto power from the governor. Now, a lot of governors, they can veto a whole bill, but being able to veto a line item out of capital outlay or supplemental appropriation, it's just crippling. And but it's not in my nature to be threatened and to cave to those threats. If I have a majority expecting me to stand, because I am not that weak, and I don't fear, re-election. Because do I run? Yes, but I don't fear it because I know I represented the people, and you can't legislate and you can't serve in fear. And I remember one time, have you ever heard of John Alario? He was a senator that was over there 46 plus years, and his streets should be paved with gold in his hometown. But anyway, he was in the room in one of those times when I was being threatened about everything that they were going to close down Bipsy, the fastest growing community college in the nation, this just a bright jewel for Louisiana. They were going to hurt, the med school. We'd never get another road fixed or, things like that. And inside you're like this, but and so, after just saying, do what you have to do. But I know who I am, I know who I'm not, and I know why the people sent me here. I cannot disappoint them. And so when I left the room, John Alario, and who is one of the most powerful men, and no one knew the game as much like he did. Sure. I'm not a game player. I'm a representative of the people, but he knew it, and he came out, and he was always very kind to me, and because it wasn't personal with him, and he said, Dodie, I want to tell you something. He said, never, ever, ever let anybody in that room know that there's something they have that you cannot afford to lose, because once they know that, they've got you. And you'll never be your own person again. Your district will never have their own representative again. He said, I've not seen many people do what you did, and that's nothing on me. It's the conviction of serving the people. He said, don't stop standing. Don't ever stop standing. And I've never forgotten that, and I always thank him for that. Because for him to say that, it meant a lot.
I think that's a part of the process that a lot of folks don't understand. They don't understand, the threats, the under the table promises, right, and the exchanges that go on, which is very common in South Louisiana.
Correct. And
it's very frustrating for a lot of folks who don't understand that when they see, projects get pulled, or correct, money that was going to a program that a lot of folks supported, correct, goes away. They don't understand that the cost of getting that done was compromising your core values. So that's tough.
And I appreciate you allowing us to speak about that, because it's not just, I want people to understand it's not just Governor Edwards. It's every governor who has served as governor since they became that powerful. And we must stop that. You know, Louisiana needs to make a 180. Like Florida made a 180, we need to make a 180. And or we are never going to be anything but where we are today. And that's the only state that didn't grow, the only state that has the out-migration that we have, the only state that has lost so much of their, we're not business friendly anymore. We've lost that because of bills that have passed, and we don't support entrepreneurship like we should. Our education, now we've done better with under Kay Brumley. As you know, Superintendent Kay Brumley is phenomenal, but he needs help in that. And so we really have a lot to do in this state, but you can never get there if you have legislators that are being threatened and they're afraid to come home because they see what happens to other legislators that stand. And but you know, when it comes to capital outlay, when people say, oh, you know, Dodie lost millions of dollars, I didn't. We never had it to lose.
Sure.
You don't have it until it's signed and it's right there, it passes. It's all it is numbers on paper. But those numbers on paper and those projects mean a lot if they pass. But we didn't have that to lose because it never, ever really became ours.
Right.
Unfortunately, you want it to. And like I said, nobody hurts more than the legislator does. But I wasn't willing to pay the cost. And I don't believe, just like, you know, the people would want me to compromise on those core values for extra paved road that we badly need.
Right.
You know, but we do. You know, my district has $1.5 million that's going to overlay 614. It should start in October. We made Highway 80 a top priority for the whole state, and so that's going to be a $13 to $14 million overlay project. It's been 17 years since it's been done, and the ice storm really showed how bad, you know, really messed it up even worse. And so hopefully, you know, they're going to get the federal funds. It's a federal highway, and we already have the state matching funds. So putting that in a 23-24 top priority was huge. And so when we're fixing to break ground, you know, for the I-20 project that's been needing to be done for 15 years. You know, every legislator inherits these bad roads. And will North Louisiana ever get what we feel we should get? Never. We don't have the population or the representation. But that doesn't stop us from working hard to get it.
Sure.
But myself and the delegation that I work with stopped short of selling us out, selling out our core values. I couldn't come home and look you in the eye if I'd done that. And so I you know, I know that, you know, going forward, we're going to have a Republican governor. Going forward, we're going to be rewarded for having the same core values. We're going to be rewarded for having the same vision for a new Louisiana. It'll be a new day in Bossier Parish. And I've talked to all the candidates, and the front runner, Jeff Landry, who has endorsed me, and he promised everywhere he goes in Bossier, he said, you will get your money back. You will get the money that you need. And he promises that. And I really appreciate him doing that, and he will follow through.
Now, how do you feel? Okay, so if you get reelected, you've got an Alan Seaball, assuming he gets reelected. You've got Dennis Bamberg coming in, potentially Mike Mellering coming in. How do you feel about, I mean, you're about to have an all-star squad with you in the front run of that. How does that make you, does that just get you like really excited? Because even
really
when I'm just
does.
saying these names, it's like, golly, that is a dream team right there. I'm almost makes me.
You are so kind. This is what's so exciting. I served on the redistricting committee. And the reason I wanted to be appointed to that, and I'm thankful that the speaker appointed me to it, is so I could have a hands-on, decider of how our district is formed. My goal was to create a third district for Bossier Parish to be able to have a third state representative. And that was my goal. And to see that come to fruition is the first time in history, in our history, Bossier Parish will have 3 state representatives. That's huge because that increases our numbers and our ability to work with a new Republican governor. And going into my last and final term, under probably hopefully a stress-free new Republican governor, I'll be in leadership and have a key role in changing this state and hopefully ripping up the foundation that Huey Long laid that doesn't have a crack in it right now. And so there's so much to do within that in the Capitol in all these departments that we can, just like with the Department of Health, we've never updated the service delivery model for the Department of Health since Huey Long laid it in 1932 when Medicaid came in. Mm-hmm. And so what we've done is we put another program on top of a bad program, and another, but we don't get rid of the bad programs that don't produce the desired results for our citizens. And so what I mean by updating it is taking what other states do, best practices that are similar to ours, getting rid of the waste and the millions and millions and millions of dollars that we're putting toward programs that don't help our citizens, and streamlining it, making it easier for our citizens to get these waivers and to put more money into that and to have programs that really, really do what we want it to do. And I think it's a 19 to 20 $1 billion a year budget, right. And we are last in the country. So you see, it's not the money, it's the way we spend the money.
I agree 100%. And I've had a similar conversation with everybody I've talked to, and at every level, from the city council to our police jury. The money is there, but even our last legislative audit said, hey, we're missing $600 million. We're spending it, inefficiently. We're double spending. There's so many things that can be refined. How many projects can $600 million fund? Maybe
absolutely.
Not a lot, but it could fund one.
Well, absolutely. It could fund a lot. Mm-hmm. And, like every senator, they had not 39. And so every senator was given $1.5 million to spend any way they wanted to in their district. And so the towns have to say, well, where was that spent? Where was the senator? What did he do with it? And that helped. And if you were chairman of a committee in the Senate, you were given $2 million to spend. Now we have 105 in the House. Years ago, I think under Jindal, each legislator got $50,000 possibly to send in the district, but that hasn't been in effect since I've been elected. And so, you work and you work hard, and your district needs this money, and you deserve to have this money. It's our tax dollars that is being withheld from us. Right. And to say, because Dodie's name's attached to it, and it's the stand that we make. Mm-hmm. And I don't make this stand alone. This is our stand. This is our beliefs and what we feel is best for Louisiana. And if you want somebody to stand, then that's what I've done. But it's just, they've got to change the system to where it punishes people for standing for the beliefs and the desires of their districts. That's what we have now. We need to change it to where you are not punished, but you're rewarded for the merits of the project.
I think that's going to be the biggest, just the legacy of Governor Edwards is going to be how quickly his obstructionist policies get just bulldozed over by a conservative government.
And
he stopped so many things, and these bills are still ready to go. They've already been written.
Absolutely.
And I think that is going to be the hallmark of John Bel Edwards, is how quickly everything that he stood for goes away. And I'm very excited about that.
I'm very excited about it because our conservative numbers are growing. And I think people need to ask themselves, why are the top 10 conservatives, which I'm considered one, under attack? Why is that? And I can tell you why. And it's because they fear us. Because the moderates that have been in power for so long, they don't go give up that power easily. Oh, yeah. And so they fear a governor like Jeff Landry coming in and having a conservative House and a conservative Senate, because I can tell you that is the only time you're going to see a new Louisiana. You have to have bold, courageous leadership. And when I say leadership, it starts in the governor's mansion, and then you have to elect the right speaker and the right president of the Senate. They control all the votes. Mm-hmm. And to have a supermajority of really convicted Republicans and legislators. I mean, it doesn't have to be so bipartisan. We all want our children to go to school and not have to worry about them being indoctrinated by some rogue educator's
Right.
desires, their mission, because we have wonderful educators. My mother was an educator. My son-in-law is an educator. I don't know one that would purposely go in and try to hurt children. They go in, they love the kids, and they teach them the subject matter that they've been taught. But we know there's a movement sweeping this country, and that is after the hearts and minds of our children. And we at the legislature are the ones that stand in that gap and say, no, you cannot have ours. And so it's just so important that you have the right people, and that you've got to have the right governor that has your vision.
I think that it's funny you said that he's a moderate, and I think a lot of people, especially in our part of the state, forget he's a very moderate Democrat. Can you imagine the other side and what other states are facing, where there's a complete absence of conservative values? I mean,
Well, I'd call moderate. I didn't call him moderate, to be honest.
No, I'm sorry. So,
Yeah, but he being pro-life,
Right, and that's
sets him apart.
Exactly.
And
Right.
I'm very grateful for that. And that is huge to me. But when it came to embracing the woke
Yes.
mentality, he is all about that.
I think that the perception of him pre-COVID, and actually his first term, was, hey, this is a West Point graduate, an Army veteran, pro-life Catholic. I think he won over a lot of conservatives if they saw, if we have to have a Democrat, maybe he is a moderate. And then his second term, and then COVID, and it seems like he just showed his true colors. He showed where the money was coming from. He showed what sway national politics had over his decision making, and I think that moderate illusion kind of vanished.
Because in his first term is when Ray raised more taxes than any state in the country, but again, he didn't do it alone. And the policies that were passed, as many as we killed, that were passed, that stopped that just stalled out business growth. Our chemical industry, our oil and gas, they didn't invest their millions and millions in Louisiana companies anymore. They took it to other states. The legacy lawsuits have killed us. I mean, and over regulations. I mean, if you want to drill a well, you can go to Texas and get a permit in 3 weeks. Here, 6 months, a year.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, but you're right. Whenever you have someone that wants to close your churches, you want to close down the whole state, and I'm telling you, we never faced anything like that. And I understand partly, but that where he was coming from for the way he thought we should be protected. But whenever you start then to talk about forced vaccines, and then sending well children home, we've never done that. And then my mother was in a nursing home, and this is federally driven. CMS decided no one could go in. I mean, we didn't get to see her for a year. They were isolated and felt abandoned, and it was just like they were in jail and did something wrong. And so I think we learned a lot from that. But when you step in, government steps in and says no church, your businesses have to close, even if it's an environment you can control, just like a nail spa, a dentist office, doctor's office. They can control that environment.
Sure, yeah.
And you close down to mom and pops when you leave Walmart and Home Depot open. I mean, there's a lot of things that were just contradictory, but the absolute worst, were that we were the only southern state to leave the abortion clinics open. The only southern state. And that was disheartening, very much so. So we did, and you're right, he did embrace the Biden administration's woke policies. And that it did take a sharp turn downward. And that's when the really hard punishment began. And for standing in the bills that I carried. But he's this past session he signs. I mean, I've had a lot of bills signed into law. And this year I had 5 bills, and 4 out of the 5 were signed into law. And so it's when a governor wants what he wants, and this governor, there was no middle ground. his way or the highway. You're either for me or you're against me. And I was for the people. I chose the people. And that's what I would choose any day. But going forward again into my last term, it's not. I'm not looking backwards. I'm looking forward, and forward to working with the Republican governor. I believe the people know it's now or never. If you want Louisiana to be productive, if you want us to be successful, if you want our children to receive the education they deserve, and our businesses to flourish, and you've got to make the change now. And stand and vote for people who stand on the principles that our founding fathers developed, stood on and wrote into our Constitution, and that's all that I do. That's what you do. I believe in the American way of life and let people live their lives with less intervention or less intrusion as possible, and just let them keep more of their hard-earned money, and help us to give people a hand up instead of, like they say, a hand down. Right. When someone starts to make that's on social services and they get to the $20,000 a year mark, which you and I know there's nothing, but it's progress for a lot of people. Right. We cut them off at their knees. We take away every bit of assistance from them when we should step it down as their income goes up. Then we reward them by we stay with them and just wean them off and allow them to be successful. But that takes a federal act to do that, because with welfare and Medicaid, that we're a flow through state. That's the federal dollars that flow through. But we just have to change the way we think, because I went to a classroom one time and of high schoolers, and we go, raise your hand when you grow up if you want to be on social services. Nobody raises their hand. Nobody desires to do that. I don't know a parent. I mean, trust me, my daddy was a Shreveport police officer and 6 children. My mother, even though an educator, stayed home. We lived payday to payday, and
just like most.
Yes,
people,
and
yeah.
so, but he was never going to be one that ever accepted any help. But we want to help people. That's what it's for. But our state needs to reward success, not take more as you're successful. Right. To put towards I guess policies that don't help anyone. Right. And so we have a lot to do, and it can be done. I have a lot of hope. I really do, and I'm looking forward to the next 4 years, truly.
One of the things that I wanted to ask you about that a lot of people may not know about, but I'm really excited to ask you about this because my son came to his mother and me and said he wanted to be baptized, wanted to do it the day before school. So we called Justin Hagler and he came out last Wednesday night. He wanted to be baptized. He wanted to accept Jesus Christ as his Lord and Savior. So, which leads me to my question to you is, talk to us about the In God We Trust. Talk to us about what's coming.
Yeah, it's very, and I'm so thankful. God saved me when I was in my late 20s, and it'd be great to be, the younger the better, and so I that's wonderful. It's because of godly parents that he's able to have heard the gospel, and God to draw him to himself. And God We Trust, our national motto, it came to my attention through a constituent who is in a group, God and Country, and she had seen Jason Rampart, it was a legislator in Arkansas, had carried a bill to where our national motto had to be posted in every classroom of K through 12 schools. And I went, man, that's interesting. That'd be such a clever way to me to get God back in the classroom. And so we began to look at Louisiana law, and we already had a current law to where the national motto has to be posted in the building somewhere. And so I went to some Bossier Parish schools and saw the In God We Trust poster. And then so I asked my grandchildren, I said, do y'all ever see this? And it looks like I had a poster that looks like this. They said, no, ma'am. And I said, well, I think we're going to legislate to pass a law to where it has to be in every classroom. And so the process began, and we even added post-secondary education. To our bill was unlike any other bill because they did not include post-secondary education, and we never got any feedback, never any negative about that, and it was not an unfunded mandate, because I am so tired of public education being just hammered with unfunded mandates. Right. We're very careful in voting in the legislature. We go, oh, not another unfunded mandate for a public school. So made sure that this one is by donations, and it can be church groups, can also contribute to either buy the posters themselves or to donate to the school for the school to purchase them. And so it sailed through committee and the legislature. It had bipartisan support, and I was just very, very grateful that Governor Edwards signed it into law. And it's made national news, and I really didn't realize how big that was. What a wonderful bill that my colleagues and I had championed. And so, they asked why. I had one constituent who said, why do you want to waste you get 5 non-fiscal bills. Why do you want to waste one of yours on a stupid bill like that? And I said, well, putting God back in the classroom may not be important to you, but I promise you it's important to the majority of my district. And it really is. And so now I'm in the process again of trying to get all the posters for it. I got to find out how many classrooms, Eric.
Right,
there are in Bossier Parish.
So basically, to make it really, really clear to people that aren't really, who follow politics and don't really understand the lingo, every classroom is going to have a sign that says "In God We Trust" in Bossier Parish.
Right. It has at every school in Louisiana, K through 12. They have till 2026, I believe, a senator put an amendment on there for the schools to comply, and so it's going to be there, and it has to be in a focal place. It can't be hidden in a corner. Can't be a small size. It has to be a certain size. And so in our national motto, someone said, "What about the separation of church and state?" Which is a phrase that's not in the Constitution anywhere, but it's been challenged, I think, about 6 times by different organizations, and just in general challenged our national motto. And it's always stood to the challenge. And I think the last time it was challenged in 2011, and the Supreme Court said that our Constitution declares that we get our rights from God. And so this backs up that statement, and it doesn't preach a certain religion. It teaches that that America, the United States, depends on God, and that is where we put our trust. And when the children see that, it'll open up conversation, or whatever the teacher is teaching, but it'll open up conversation. They'll see a positive message, and I think it's more critical now than ever to have God back in the classroom. And that motto says what America believes. I mean, it's on our currency, for goodness sake. It's in many state houses around the country, but to have it in every classroom in Louisiana is exciting, and I'm just thankful for the legislature. I'm thankful for the parents and the citizens who support it overwhelmingly, the educators who tell me they can't wait to put it in the room and for it to become law. And I'm thankful that the national media has recognized the importance of it. I really am, and it's not me. It's the legislature as a whole. It's the governor signing it into law, and it's all the people who supported it.
So the governor, Republicans, Democrats, Libertarians, everybody was on the same page with this, which is really cool.
It wasn't unanimous, but it was close.
Right.
Yeah.
Now, what kind of time frame would you like to see Bossier schools have this?
As soon as we can get the posters there. I mean, the Bossier Parish Schools, like I said, is not responsible for it. So I'm organizing a way to get different organizations to join me in this quest. But I have to have, the number, and it's really a Christian organization supplies these. They make them, so it's very inexpensive. And then also Hobby Lobby works with legislators, and if you want to put a frame around it, it's not really expensive, so it's really, really doable. And so we're just starting the process.
Right. You hope by the end of the year, or will it be next year? Or?
I hope as soon as possible.
Okay, well, that's good. That's good. Good
if
deal.
only we knew someone at the school board that could help you.
Yeah, I know exactly.
I know it.
Yeah.
But there was an educator from down south, and there was one here. They both sent me a picture, and I mean, it just almost made me cry. They were so excited since they had to take their crosses down. Educator cannot lead a student in prayer, and but now they can put up their national motto, and it was just, I was just so excited to
Good
see
deal.
that our educators have embraced that.
I think that you've been a champion for a lot of causes that are really enjoined with family values and protecting children. Is there anything that you can see, in the next legislative session with the new governor that we might have more success with than we had under the current governor?
Absolutely. We passed some good election integrity laws that strengthened up our laws here in Louisiana to like clean the rolls off after so many years and to just strengthen them. And they've been vetoed. We want to do that, and definitely the budget. In the capital outlay, and the way that the surplus was appropriated won't be changed, and that's the bright spot, for our districts and for the parishes and for the towns we represent. That the money is there and it's not gone away. It's a way it can be spent. And the way the capital outlay is, the bill is way too heavy, and it slows down the process. And so it's going to give us the ability to change that and to make it right, and then to right-size government. The past session was a well-organized chaos, and whenever we sent the HB1, the budget bill, and supplemental bills, and HB2 over to the Senate in late April. They didn't send it back to us until about June the 5th, and Sonny died on June 8th. And then they immediately went into conference, which is just a few people rewriting it, pretty much. And so we have a 48-hour rule that we want to put into law because it was not observed. To be able to have 48 hours to digest something, it took the staff, working day and night for days and days and days to go over, a staff of 6 to, I can't remember, at least 6 people, and these are experts to go through these bills to try to even see what was in it. And really, with the capital outlay bill, they testified in committee that it was like late June before they really got through it. So even though I did not vote to spend every dime that we had, I gave my word to the police and firemen that I would not come home without voting for their supplemental pay. I gave our educators my word that I would vote to either give them immediate pay raise or whatever was available for their pay raise. And since we were not allowed to vote on SCR 2, which contained a permanent pay raise and a MFP increase, we have this time, as you know, as a stipend, and next year it immediately becomes a permanent pay raise for our educators. And then we paid $700 million down, half of that, $1.4 billion, to the retirement debt for our educators, and so and that was huge. But if we had not done that, and we put 65 to 70 million in the rainy day fund, it would have triggered the tax reform that the citizens passed in 2021, and every taxpayer would have got a tax break. That was the conservative mission. And although that this budget was probably just a budget I normally would never have voted for, the alternative was worse because the Democrats made a deal that unbeknownst to us at the time, to where they received $1 million to spend any way they wanted in their district if they would not push for us to join us in asking the leadership to let us hear and vote on a permanent teacher pay raise in SCR 2. They made a deal with them. So they took the deal, and but if we would have went into a special session, just think they got $1 million for not trying to for not kind of throwing the teachers under the bus. They got $1 million to spend in their district. They could have named their price if we went into a special session, because they have enough to stop it all. They had enough votes to create that type of. They could have gotten $5 million each. They could have named their price. So we had no choice of voting that budget through.
Right.
Because the alternative was far worse.
And that's something that is difficult for most people to understand until you understand the backroom dealings and the pressure that the left has put on lawmakers to kind of ram their agenda through. Right. It could be so much worse. So we have a lot to thank for the folks that are standing in the gap, like you said, and making sure that the core values that we have remain intact. Yeah, I think that's really important.
It is, and it's like my bill HB 466 we had briefly talked about, and indoctrination that will come back, and it wasn't easy to carry. I think when we presented in the House, Brother Randy Harper, who is the pastor and over this facility we're in, he had asked me, he had heard about and read about the bill that Florida had passed. And so he had asked me to look into that and carrying that for Louisiana's children, to protect our children from that movement that's sweeping the country. And so he asked the delegation, and I said, well, I guess I'm it. And of course, then we began the process, and he was with me. He was with me in committee, and I was so happy that he was there. But I think the hype or the media sold it as it was against certain people's lifestyle.
Yep.
But that had nothing to do with the content of the bill. It was a protection of everyone's children from someone coming in and declaring their lifestyle choice to the children, the adult coming in the room and using the classroom time to push ideology that the parents had no knowledge of, the parents may or may not accept, and that was not even close to being age appropriate to our children. Plus, it's not part of the state standard. It's not part of the curriculum. And so it protected all children. It protected all parents, regardless of their lifestyle choice. There's only one righteous judge, and it's certainly not me. And so I had several people who were lived different lifestyle choices that helped me write this bill. And they wanted to come to committee and testify in favor of this bill because, like they said, absolutely no one has a right to go in my child's classroom and talk about these sensitive subjects according to their philosophy. No one. But they were so afraid of of what they would face if they had of. And so but that bill will definitely come back, and it will be signed into law because, again, our school boards, as you know, you always have to be afraid of lawsuits. And some people say, well, people who live an alternate lifestyle are a protected class. No, our children are a protected class.
Right. I know. That's one thing that's so frustrating is that is that we're so worried about the small little group of people who just do nothing but start trouble, and we're not worried about the big majority of the people here that put us here, that voted us in. We're so worried about what these people are going to think that we forget about what these people want. And I'm the opposite. I want what these people voted me. I want what they want.
And you should vote for the majority. That lifestyle makes up less than 1% of the population in the whole entire United States. Right. So my question to our listeners is, why does the majority bend? Why does the majority relinquish their majority and allow that to happen? You don't want that to happen in Louisiana. You've got to have people who will stand in the gap for your children and support them because our children deserve it.
Right.
So
I think that's going to be the biggest challenge of the next generation is defending against a tyrannical minority who has the ear of politicians and the ear of mass media.
Correct.
We got to protect our kids. We have to, prevent them from being indoctrinated until they have, the reasoning and discernment to figure out what they're talking about. Right. And then we have to educate them and say, this is our American way of life. This is how we live. This is how we've gotten to where we are. Right. And then, as conservatives, give them the freedom to hopefully make the right choice.
Absolutely.
And we're not just preventing indoctrination from a particular lifestyle. It's just any indoctrination.
Any indoctrination.
Is wrong.
It is wrong. It's, as you know, being on the school board, the state curriculum is vetted, and it's sent to, the standards sent to you, the state standards vetted, and then they send to the school board. They form a curriculum around those state standards and those key points and triggers that you have to meet. And so, in the classroom, the time is so limited for the educators to teach the children what they have to have. They're still teaching to a test that I'll be so glad they don't have to do anymore and allow them the joy of teaching again. But when we talk about the younger generation, I think that it's if we can't control what happens in that classroom and keep any ideology out, then there will not be any public school anymore. Homeschooling has grown tremendously.
Yes.
It has, and you're going to see more and more churches open up schools because their parents have got to know that their children are not going to be taught these things that we don't even believe in. And so we have to pass legislation to help our school board formulate a policy to enable you to protect the children without fear of reprisal. So
Right.
I think that's the most important thing, and that's going to be the great challenge of the next generation is figuring out how to educate to the curriculum, the standards. Let the kids learn reading, writing, and math, and have them figure everything else out on their way to adulthood.
Right. Let the parents be the parent.
Exactly.
We have a parental rights. We have a preamble that where Louisiana says we respect and uphold the parental rights above all else. Mm-hmm. But do we? Do we when a child goes to school and says, is a female and they want to be called something else that's not, the same sex as their birth certificate says, and don't tell my parents I want to do this or that. You can't do that. Mm-hmm. You just can't, and our counselors are wonderful. Our educators know how to handle that. But the educators I talked to, they said, I don't want all that mess coming in the classroom. Mm-hmm. They don't want to worry about that.
It just takes such a focus off teaching.
They just want to teach the kids what they've been trained to teach, and let all the social engineering stay outside and let the parents deal with it at home. But don't bring it in our classrooms.
And that's why we need the legislation to protect them from doing the right thing, because they're stuck in the middle.
They are.
With the threat of, lawfare, I think I heard somebody say last week, the legal system can drain a school system quick.
Absolutely.
So unless we have strong legislation to protect the educators, we're in just as much of a bind without it.
And we passed a great law that I co-authored to protect our educators if they had to intervene and break up a fight. I didn't realize they couldn't do that because they didn't want to be sued civilly.
Yeah,
so that law we passed. It's a Teacher Protection Act to protect them from those type of civil.
Right.
It's just like our police officers and fire really have qualified immunity, and the qualified immunity law it protects our police officers, as you know, from being sued civilly unless they've been found to have broken a law or excessive force or malfeasance in office. Then they lose that protection. The law takes care of bad actors.
Right.
And so, but every year for the past 4 years, the Democrats have wanted to chip away at that law. And I have been a staunch supporter of our qualified immunity law. And one time they had one get out of committee, and I was outraged. I said, I went to everyone, how did y'all let this out? And one of the law enforcement associations, I won't name which one, had said, well, we're going to make a little concession. I said, no. You don't understand. Once you start chipping away something like that, we won't have a law enforcement. No one will put that uniform on. So I've always bled blue, and I'm a staunch supporter of that qualified immunity law. We cannot allow anything to happen. So that is similar. If we don't continue to provide that protection for our law enforcement officers, we won't have any.
Right.
If we don't provide our children the protection they need in the classroom, there won't be any. There won't be a public education. And if we don't pay our teachers what they need to be paid, and we don't protect them from frivolous lawsuits, then they're not going to choose that profession to go in, and it's just a ripple effect. But it starts with the lawmakers, and it starts with that protecting them, and then you guys do a great job in allowing our law enforcement to do their job.
Right.
And so it's important to stand in so many different levels.
That's one of the reasons why I personally wanted to invite you to share the perspective of somebody who's kind of seen behind the curtain at the state level, and explain why things happen, some of the pressures from the left, pressures from both sides south of I-10, to try and conform, to whatever, the powers that be in their mission, which ultimately conflicts with a lot of the values that we hold dear. So I'm glad that you're able to share that perspective with us.
Thank you.
It's really important for people to know why.
And I really appreciate that, to have the opportunity, because there is a why, and they are the why. The people I serve are the why. So.
Good.
Well, thank you so much for being here this evening. This has been,
you so much.
I say it every episode, but I think this is the best one yet. I really enjoy these conversations, and the fact you take time to share with our South Bossier community. It means a lot to us. I know it means a lot to Eric.
I tell you, South Bossier has always been so supportive, and I am, and it's amazing how different North and Bossier are.
Yes.
But what is not different are their core values. They're the
Right.
same.
Right.
Absolutely.
Very strong. And one day I assume I'll be seeing y'all in the legislature.
Sure thing.
I can see that right now.
Well, thank you so much, and I appreciate you.
Thank you. Me
This
too.
has been great. Eric, as always, I'll give you the opportunity to have the last word.
Just thank you so much. I'm so excited about today. I'm glad it turned out really good. I hope everybody enjoys it, and that's all I got.
Thank you.
Thank
you so much.
so much.
Good night, everybody.
Thank
Bye.
you.